tonight to talk as President of Birkdale Progress Association about koalas in relation to the Birkdale land. The Birkdale land has environmental, Indigenous culture and European heritage values, and I wish to discuss all three. We already know that koalas are in peril. Four Corners reminded us, Gemma and Debbie have reminded us. Koala numbers are declining rapidly. Developers are allowed to clear healthy koala habitat, especially here in southeast Queensland. Yet, the koala was officially named the faunal emblem of Queensland in 1971 after a newspaper report showed strong public support for this endearing marsupial. So where is this strong public support to protect koalas now? Why aren't federal and state government regulations being enforced to halt habitat clearing? Why are we allowing this unique, endearing marsupial to die, to disappear from the wild here in Queensland? Can you press that one, please? That's happening at Pimpamar. Next one. Flagstone. Next one. That was a recent one that I got from Facebook just the other day. That's actually New South Wales, Bangalow. Two of them, but I only brought the one photo on. Can you go back to the number 3, please? Thank you. In July last year, Delia and I attended a presentation sponsored by the state government at Lone Pine Sanctuary, during which professors from various universities presented their research about koalas. Professor Hamish McCallum, an ecologist from Griffith University, stated that koala declines are multifactorial, stemming from habitat loss. If they have nowhere to live, then disease is of secondary importance. If they have nowhere to live. What a profound statement, and how appalling that it's so true. It's so real because it's happening yesterday, today, last week and tomorrow. Their habitat is being cleared. Koalas are losing their bushland homes, being displaced, becoming refugees in their own homeland. Koalas have nowhere to live. They're in the way of progress. If they have nowhere to live, that statement has such relevance for the Birkdale land, because here we have somewhere for koalas to live, a place that offers fantastic koala habitat, according to Debbie, a place where they're already living, and a place where we can let them live safely. The Birkdale land, I'll get you to move on to the number 5, please. The Birkdale land is located at 362 to 388 Old Cleveland Road here in Birkdale, just down the road. The land is zoned conservation and community purpose. So can you just... as quoted in the local paper, the 61.78 hectare site comprises 72.48% protected conservation area and a cleared area of 17 hectares of usable land available for community purposes. Redland City Council's announcement of the finality of the purchase is imminent. From the... Where's the marker? Pam, do you want this? Do you want this? Yes, please. Thank you. Just that little button there. That one, yeah. Okay. So, Council has bought this section down here, which is the ACMA section. This section up here is the Air Services Australia, and they're retaining that at the moment. In my talk, this is Tingulpa Creek running along here. The old Willard's house is down there. The bunker, the communications centre is there. And this is where there was evidence of an airstrip. Is that right, Rob? The airstrip was over there. Further down this way. Right, there was an airstrip, an old airstrip. The Birkdale land adjoins the Willard complex. the fenced, well-secured property with the old homestead dairy and sheds. So if you can move on to the next one, please. Number 6. Okay. James and Margaret Willard commenced the history of European ownership of the land when they purchased their first block in 1863. The future of the Birkdale land, as in its past, is connected to the Willards homestead, and together they have a huge tourist potential located just 25 minutes from Brisbane CBD. I've been doing some research on the top tourist destinations of Queensland. Unsurprisingly, the Great Barrier Reef is number 1, with locations surrounding Cairns, the Daintree National Park, Port Douglas, Kuranda and Cape Tribulation being popular. Brisbane came in at number 12, with Australia Zoo and Lamington National Park rating a mention. Another site said the Great Barrier Reef, the lava tubes at Undara, koalas, wallabies, kangaroos, Indigenous culture, museums, national parks and kayaking. What do these all have in common? The natural environment, of course. Tourists don't want to see little houses with their air conditioners stuck on the wall, pressed together and up against their back fences. They want to see naturally wonderful assets so they can explore, experience, enjoy, appreciate, respect and value everything that is on offer here on the Birkdale land. The Birkdale land and the Willard homestead are wonderful assets. They can become the jewel of the Redlands, the city's economic assets. Here is Redland City Council's chance of showcasing a naturally wonderful environment to attract and excite locals and tourists from the world. Let's consider its environmental significance. The land has healthy koala habitat and koalas. At the koala presentation, we learned that research conducted by Professor Bill Ellis from the University of Queensland focused on body temperatures of koalas and their adaptation to heat in their surrounding environments. The research found that in hot months, koalas headed for cool areas. They needed forage and shade trees. However, his results found that when nighttime temperatures remained high, the koalas weren't able to lower their body temperatures and therefore didn't eat. Thus, koala health and fitness was compromised, with disease being the end result. Koalas don't have air conditioners, so this research reinforced the need for saving all of the koala habitat on the Birkdale land and adding more. Here in the Redlands we have cooler day and night temperatures during summer, which provides ideal conditions for koalas to thrive. No wonder this area was part of Koala Coast. And with global warming, the Redlands will become more important for koala survival. The Birkdale land is not an isolated piece of land. The koala habitat has connectivity to Mount Cotton West, Vedman National Park, Daisy Hill and Brisbane Koala Bushland. Across Tingalpa Creek, Brisbane City Council has been purchasing land and re-establishing koala habitat in its push to become the koala capital. We need to join in with this to share in the tourist dollars. A koala hospital or care centre could be constructed here to facilitate koala recovery following trauma. Lone Pine Sanctuary is very popular with tourists who wish to see koalas, but this sanctuary is a zoo. When Adelia and I were there, we saw a koala pacing backwards and forwards, just like the old videos of lions and tigers wanting to escape. The Birkdale land offers freedom from cages. If you can go on to the next one, please. Koalas are the icon. When we discuss habitat loss, we not only lose koalas, but we lose kangaroos, lizards, possums, many species of birds and insects. We lose biodiversity. The Birkdale land offers a home to them all. You can go through to number 10, please. Just stay there. That's biodiversity. Some of the things that I used to have at my place as well. The Birkdale land offers a home to them all. Pathways for walking with minimal disturbance could be constructed for people to enjoy seeing koalas in the wild, which is becoming a very rare experience today. Jonathan Lee, a youth leader at the Baptist Church that shares a fence with the Willards property, has commented on how enjoyable it is to see wallabies feeding there at the back of the fence. BPA wishes the Birkdale land was given national park status to fully protect all that it has to offer. As this has not happened, the next best thing for the land is to be given botanic garden status to showcase the flora and the fauna that are native to the Redlands. Wildflowers and shrubs, whether in flower beds or scattered naturally, can provide food for native bees, honeybees, other insects, birds and bats. Picnic tables can be aesthetically placed throughout. Let's consider its Indigenous cultural significance. A priority is the renaming of the Birkdale land. BPA has suggested Quandamooka National Park or Quandamooka Botanic Gardens. As this land is the gateway to Quandamooka country, with the Quandamooka people having lived here for 20,000 years, it should be given the respect that it deserves. According to local stories and Dr. Ray Kirchhoff, the Birkdale land and nearby locations were tribal meeting grounds where wrestling matches were held. Thorough Indigenous assessment needs to be carried out to reveal how the Quandamooka people lived here before Europeans took their land away from them. Quandamooka people could gain financial benefit from the abundance of native flowers by having native beehives and harvesting the honey for sale. Further discussions are required with Cameron Costello, CEO of Kayak. Let's consider its European heritage. The Birkdale land is connected to the Willard Farm complex, as up until the end of World War II it was part of one large property. The Willard homestead was begun during the mid-1860s. It began with a few rooms and more were added as the family expanded. Wide verandas were added on the north and western sides of the house. Imagining times past, next one. Imagining times past, how pleasant taking tea on the veranda would have been, with everyone kept cool by the shade of the pine trees, while looking across the gardens to the bunya pines and beyond. In 2012, Redland City Council's own studies concluded that Willard's Farm is a highly significant place which demonstrates historical, representative and aesthetic values. In 2015, officers of the Queensland Department of Environment and Heritage reported that Willard's Farm is of a high level of significance to Queensland history. And what does it have to offer? It can become a museum, providing real evidence to help us understand Queensland history. A farm complex that still stands, reminding us of times past, tempting us with its secrets, allowing us to trace the stories of the people who have lived there. Perhaps the baby's grave will be located, as it was buried somewhere on the property. The child died before it was baptised, so it was not allowed to be buried in the hallowed ground of a church. How tragic if a bulldozer discovers its whereabouts. It can showcase 150 years of animal husbandry, ranging from dairying to goats that were kept in more recent times by Isabella Alcock, known locally as the Goat Lady. It can be a coffee house selling local produce or a cultural hub for artists providing unique opportunities for paintings or photography. Next one, please. And the next one, please. A venue for wedding photos. Nearby, a community garden can showcase traditional gardening methods. The Cotton Boys, whose parents owned all of the land during World War II, when interviewed by Councillor Paul Bishop, said how a sea of fog rolls in over the land. Imagine enjoying coffee on the veranda of the Willard homestead while watching this event. Studies frequently state on how human well-being is enhanced by walks, interactions and experiences in nature. Here we have the perfect place for this to happen. The small communication building. The next one. Sorry. And then the next one. The small communication building is of significance to European history. Known as the Radio Receiving Station, it was built by General MacArthur and his Signal Corps during World War II to facilitate communication between General MacArthur and President Roosevelt. It was the first site in Australia to receive the message of the Japanese surrender in 1945. It's the building in the far distance. It's the far distant one, not the close one. Thank you. Next one. After the war, it was bought by the PMG, the Postmaster General's office, becoming a high-frequency radio monitoring station until recently. The PMG wanted isolation from electrical interference, so the trees were allowed to grow. The communications building can become a museum, showcasing the Australian-American war efforts, history of radio, of which the Bayside Amateur Radio Society is very keen to support. The former officer in charge of the Hemet radio transmitting station during World War II, Henry Flora, he's the man in the middle. I received an email from him last year. He was 100 years old, and he expressed, the next one, expressed in his email how it would have been wonderful if Hemet transmitting station had become a museum, and he would definitely support he called it the Capalabar, because that's what it was known then, the Capalabar Museum. The vast antenna array that forms part of the curtilage of this building, it needs to be included as part of the museum as well. So, you've heard that the Birkdale and the Willard Farm Complex have a lot to offer. With the bleaching of coral on the Great Barrier Reef, what will attract tourists to Queensland? Our unique fauna and flora are the answers. Tourists love koalas. Here we have healthy habitat with koalas and biodiversity. We need to minimise our footprint on the Birkdale land to allow them to flourish, because we can't have koalas pushed out of the way for tar, cement and high-rise. During pre-poll for the recent federal election, I had discussions with Andrew Laming MP, our member for Bowman, about the future of the Birkdale land. He said Alma Park Zoo was a real possibility, and that it will begin with 15 hectares with potential to expand. He said the kayak fully supported it. Of course, I rang Cameron, and he categorically denied this and said that he has never spoken with people from Alma Park Zoo. Was Andrew Laming lying, or was he misguided? Our member for Bowman also said a Chinese university could be established there for Chinese students only, but he didn't think the locals would like that. Would this also involve building accommodation for the students? High-rise? 10-storey buildings are planned for the mud at Toondah. How high would they go on land in Birkdale? He said interstate unis are interested in a campus here, but what about our local unis? Are they expanding? QUT has closed their Caboolture and Castledine campuses. Griffith is not renewing its lease at Mount Gravatt. I don't know what to believe, but with Dr. Lynn Bishop, the principal of Sheldon, her purchase of land adjacent to her school with plans for a university, then we don't need to include the Birkdale land in these discussions. Mr. Laming regards the Birkdale land as a koala corridor, not habitat. The term corridor worries me as it implies a passageway, a narrowing of habitat. A few years back he said koalas could have the bit along the creek. Does Mr. Laming show a lack of care and concern for the environment?
Absolutely.
How influential is he? All of his comments reflect clearing of koala habitat and damage to the environment. Is this progress? The land is zoned to community purpose and conservation with wildlife regulations enforced by federal and state governments. Next one, thanks. On the 8th of April this year, I received an email from Senator the Honourable Zed Seselja, Assistant Minister for Treasury and Finance, who was in charge of the divestment of the Birkdale land, who said, "I'm confident arrangements will be put in place to meet the Redland community's expectations for the Birkdale land. We need assurances that Redland City Council will be carrying out comprehensive, with due diligence, environmental, Indigenous and European assessments and engage in thorough community consultation with every interested resident, and will listen and act upon our expectations for the Birkdale land. Here in Birkdale, we have a chance to protect and conserve our environment and biodiversity. We can become a place that has something to offer tourists, rather than being known as the dormitory suburb that you drive through to get to the ferry for Moreton Bay and North Stradbroke Island. The Birkdale land has many assets, but the most important one is the koala. We have an opportunity to send a message to the world that we value koalas, that we care about their future. As Professor Carrick said in February at the inquiry into faunal extinction, the bottom line is protecting koala habitat. And this we can do here on the Birkdale land. Thank you.